For dessert, we're gonna make a homemade traditional galaktaburiko. For this, Nicholas is gonna help me with that. So we're gonna get started with making our syrup. Our syrup is 1 cup of water, 2 cups sugar, 1 cinnamon stick. Nicholas, you wanna put that in there? And lemon peel. We're gonna put this right on the stove and let that cook. Once that boils, we'll take it off to let it cool. Next, we're gonna take 6 cups of milk and put that right on the stove to let that warm up. Next, we're gonna get ready for our custard. We're gonna take 6 egg yolks. I'm gonna put this in here. And you wanna whisk these together. Start whisking that, Nicholas. And while he's whisking that, I'm gonna put 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract into that. Whisk that in. We're gonna whisk in 1 cup of sugar until that's a nice pale yellow color. Keep whisking it, bud. There you go. So our key to the Greek galaktaburiko is our fine semolina. So we're gonna whisk in 1 cup of the semolina. Slow, hold on. I've taken 1 cup of our hot milk and I'm gonna slowly whisk this into our mixture. We're gonna add this to our hot milk on the stove so that we can make our custard. We're gonna pour this right into our hot milk and whisk that. So this is gonna become a nice thick consistency. So we're just gonna watch this as we stir this, and you're gonna already feel it becoming a little bit harder to move the whisk, which means it's nice, it's getting nice and thick. Our custard is now ready. Do you see the nice thick consistency? And we're gonna pour that into just a Pyrex pan and stick that in the freezer to get it nice and chilled so we can roll our galaktaburiko. So our vanilla custard has now cooled, and I'm going to use a number 7 phyllo dough. And in this roll of phyllo, it's 1 pound of phyllo. In this, it has about 20 sheets. We're gonna use 1 sheet per roll. Some people like to make their galaktaburiko more like a pie, but I'm gonna make it individual rolls. And the reason I'm doing that is because I can just cook as many as I need for my plated meal and stick the other ones in the freezer and just pull them out when I need them. That way it gives me a little batch dessert cooking, and I could bring them to people's homes when I'm going over to their house. So we're gonna get started. To make these even, what I'm gonna do is take our custard and actually cut it. So now that it's cooled, I'm gonna cut it in half and cut it into 20 even logs. That way I have 20 even rolls. So this is a great job to have your kids help you with, because the number 7 phyllo dough is actually easier to work with than some of the other thinner pastry dough. So I think I can teach Nicholas how to do this today. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna take 1 sheet of phyllo, and like all of our delicious baking, we always use lots of butter. So we're gonna butter this whole sheet. And we're gonna fold this in half. Like that. Butter it again. And then we're gonna portion out one of our custard logs here. Put this right on the top. And we're just gonna fold a little bit in on either side so that they still stay. We push this down so it's still a nice long roll. Roll that. And we're gonna butter the top, of course. And that is ready to go in the oven. The great thing about this dessert is you really can make this on any different size that you need. So sometimes when I'm doing, this is more of a plated dessert size, but you can cut the phyllo in half and make them mini, and that's great because then you can make them tiny little bite size, and that's great. So that way if people bring other desserts, everybody gets to try different desserts. I always have to think of my catering brain, so I love to make mini desserts as well.
Yeah, mini.
size. A little more butter. You want to try to roll that one again? Okay.
Okay.
Good. Good job. There you go. So I'm going to butter the tops of these and bake them in the oven at 350 for about 45 minutes or until golden brown. When we take them out of the oven, we're going to use our cooled syrup, since they'll be nice and hot, and pour the cooled syrup on top of them and ready to serve. Now that our galaktiburuka are baked and ready, we're going to pour the cooled syrup right on top, and we're going to plate them. So, a little fun way to plate these, I'm just gonna take one of them and cut it right on a diagonal in half. And I'm gonna plate this right on top of each other in the center of the plate. A little bit more syrup drizzle. I'm gonna garnish it with a little bit of cinnamon, and I made some candied oranges, which I'll put the recipe online for you guys to see, but I've made some candied oranges that I'm gonna garnish as well. Put a little cinnamon. Today we're going to make this delicious traditional Greek dessert, kataifi. To get started on making our kataifi, I have first melted on the stove 2.5 sticks of butter. So while it's melting, I'm going to get started with making our mixture, which is our walnuts and almonds. So I'm gonna use 3/4 of a cup of whole walnuts and 3/4 of a cup of almonds in my favorite food processor. Perfect. So now we're gonna take this mixture and pour it into a bowl here. And we're gonna add to this mixture a teaspoon of cinnamon and a 1/2 teaspoon of ground clove. And we're gonna do a zest from 1 orange. So we're gonna do this over here. And adding to this mixture, we're gonna add in our melted butter. But while we're waiting for the butter, we're gonna get our phyllo ready. A lot of these ingredients are the same or very similar to the way we would make baklava. But this is actually shredded phyllo. So when we use baklava, we use sheets of phyllo and make it in a layered pan. This we're gonna make individual pieces. So we're gonna take our phyllo, and when I'm making this, I always take out the phyllo probably the night before, leave it on the counter so it's room temp, and it's easier to work with. So we're gonna take this, and here's how it comes. And what we're gonna do, lay this out into, we're gonna open this and we're gonna make this into 15 equal parts. And you'll see here, it comes in like a loom almost. So I wanna make sure that when you make your pieces, you're gonna break that off on the top so that you break up the phyllo. Work with this here. And we're gonna make about this size. We're gonna do 15 equal pieces. So now we have our 15 pieces of kataifi phyllo laid out all over my counter. Next, I'm gonna go grab our melted butter. So I have our melted butter here, and I'm gonna take half of this melted butter, I'm gonna pour into this mixture. Because you want this mixture to be, we want this to be pretty firm. We don't want this to be like running out of our little rolls. So we need to have the butter to really hold our nuts and our mixture together. Perfect, and then we have our brush and our melted butter, and we're gonna butter each one of our pieces of kataifi. So we have our butter on each one of our pieces. Next, we're gonna take our nut mixture here, and we're gonna do about a big tablespoon on each one. We're gonna put it right at the edge of each one of our little rolls here. Now it's time to roll. So when we take our little piece of kataifi here, we're gonna take the nuts and we're gonna roll this. And as we're rolling it, you're gonna fold in the loose pieces because we wanna make a nice tight roll. Now, you have plenty of butter to hold this roll together. So we're gonna just keep rolling it with our nut mixture inside. And we have all the butter all over. Of course, we're gonna put some more butter on top, but look at that perfect roll. We're gonna put that right into our Pyrex, but first I need to butter it. So we're gonna butter this. Look at that, delicious. When I was little, I used to say that the kataifi looked like hair. It was like a little bit, it has such a different flavor, even though it's very similar, the ingredients, to baklava. To me, I always thought that this was a little bit more interesting. I like the consistency, and the shredded phyllo, when it bakes, it really has a really nice crunch to it. So, and of course, you can separate this phyllo into different sizes as well. You can make them bigger and, divide it into smaller amounts. The other thing that I love is that this is a good dessert that you can make ahead of time. So you can do these rolls and put this in the freezer. You don't have to bake it right away, and you can bake it when you're ready. So we have our kataifi rolls in our pan ready, and we're gonna take the extra butter that we have, and we're gonna pour that right on top. And this is gonna make it even more crunchy. Love that. Pour the butter on top. And if you had any extra nuts, you could sprinkle those on top as well. But we're gonna put this in the oven at 350 for about 50 minutes. While our kataifi is baking, we're gonna make our syrup, which is 2.5 cups of water, 3 cups of sugar, and a lemon peel. Put that right in there. And we're gonna let this fully cooked until our sugar is dissolved, and then we're gonna let our syrup cool completely before we pour on top of our hot kataifi. We've taken our kataifi out of the oven, nice golden brown, crispy on top, looks great. So these are nice and hot, so I have our syrup fully cooled. So remember, the key is always one has to be hot, one has to be cold. So if you have your kataifi cool completely, then you'll put hot syrup on top. So we're gonna take our cooled syrup, discard our lemon peel, and we're gonna pour this on top to soak up all the syrup. This will take a few minutes, but all of that phyllo will soak that up. No one said Greek desserts were healthy, but I'm gonna dig into this one. For the full recipe, visit nikkigleckis.com, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Today we're making one of the most well-known Greek desserts, baklava. I'm Nikki Gleckis, and this is Nikki's Modern Mediterranean. To get started on making our baklava, we're gonna make the filling. So you can make this on many different variations. Some people use different nuts. Today I'm gonna use toasted almonds and toasted walnuts. So we're gonna use our food processor. I have 3 cups of toasted walnuts. I just toasted them in the oven. Put those in there. 3 cups of toasted almonds. We're gonna put 1/4 of a teaspoon of clove, nutmeg, and cinnamon. So this will give it a really delicious flavor. So we'll put that in there. 1 tablespoon of just white sugar. And 4 tablespoons of melted butter. So we're gonna pour that in there. We're just pouring all of our ingredients together and we'll mix that. So my mother-in-law has a little secret ingredient. She uses 1 pack of a maple syrup butter cookie that it's a breakfast cookie that you can buy at a market. So she adds that into our mixture. So I'm just gonna take 1 pack, it's 4 cookies. I'm just gonna add this in here. I mean, really, everybody makes their baklava different. They use all different variations of the same ingredients, butter, cinnamon, sugar. So we'll put that in here. Close that up. Simple as that. So our mixture looks great. I've blended all of this up. This is looks so good, nutty goodness. Unfortunately, I don't get to make baklava too much at home because my kids are unfortunately allergic to nuts, but I do make this at work very often and I'll make it for special occasions. So look at that. The butter is combining all the ingredients, which is gonna taste delicious with our baklava. And now our mixture's ready and we're gonna go grab our phyllo so we can layer baklava. We have all our ingredients out, we're ready to assemble our baklava. Today I'm just using a regular Pyrex pan that I have. It's 9.5 by 13. I don't recommend using anything smaller, but a normal baking sheet that you have at home, baking pan is totally fine. I'm using 2 boxes of phyllo. So this one is number 7 and on the box it says 10 to 12 sheets. So I'm gonna use 2 boxes of that. So that will be about 24 sheets. And I'm gonna divide it into 3s for our layering. So I'm gonna use not 8 sheets on the bottom, 8 sheets in the middle, and then 8 sheets on top. Don't get hung up on which phyllo you use. If you use a number 4 and it has 24 sheets, you could just use that 1 box. So you can really play around with whatever phyllo that you use, just really kind of divide the number of sheets into 3, okay? So I have our 2 sticks of butter that I've melted, and we're gonna get started. We're gonna butter the bottom of our pan, a generous amount of butter, and go all the way around on the sides. You really don't skimp on butter here with all of these desserts. When you're cooking with phyllo, you really want to be able to butter each sheet. So we're going to take our first sheet of phyllo, lay that down. It's going to drape over the edges, but don't worry, we're going to cut it at the end. So I'm going to press this down and make sure you get to the corners. So press that all the way down, lay this on the top here, and we're going to butter each sheet. Put that, make sure you get to the edges. I'm gonna lay this down here. Now, when you're doing this, if 2 of your sheets of phyllo get stuck together, don't worry. Just put those 2 sheets down and you can just poke with a little knife a few slits on the top of the phyllo. And then that way, when you butter it, the butter will go down to the 2nd sheet. So if it sticks together, don't worry, just make sure you put extra butter and poke a little bit, some holes in there. So we're gonna drape this over, butter this. So now we're on our 2nd sheet. Remember, I'm gonna do 8 layers on the bottom before I do our mixture. Going all the way to the corners. And I'm sure you've seen different variations of people, the way they make baklava or the way they roll it. Some people will take the sheet, put the filling, and roll it. No wrong way. Just have to, it's basically all the same ingredients. So now I've buttered my 8 sheets on the bottom, and we're gonna take half of our filling here and sprinkle this all over. You're gonna spread it all the way. Make sure you get to the corners, and you're gonna do an even layer here. All this nutty goodness, we need to make sure we get up to the edges. That looks about half. So I'm gonna spread that out all the way to the corners so that the corner pieces don't miss out. It smells so good. Okay, ready for the next round of phyllo. So I'll put another 8 sheets. after seeing how labor intensive this is. I hope you really appreciate how delicious baklava is. Put those sheets down. So I've buttered our second layer of our 8 sheets, and we're gonna use the second or the rest of our mixture and evenly distribute that. And now the rest of our phyllo. Press that down, just like we did all the other sheets. Butter the top, of course. And our next step, I'm gonna butter up all the sides. And our next step is to cut around the edges. I'm gonna take a small knife and we're just going to go to take all this phyllo all the way to the edge here. And we're just gonna cut right at the top of our, there we go. We're just gonna try to cut all of these edges around, all of this excess phyllo, so that we can make it look really nice. So we're just gonna go around, all the way around, so that I can pull it off. Starting in the corners, because remember, I wanna make sure that we don't neglect our corner pieces. I'm just gonna cut it straight. So that rips off nice and easily. All of this will be excess. So now we've cut all of our excess phyllo, put this on the side. Our next step is we're gonna take our fingers and you're going to press down the edges so that it goes down into the pan. So like this, so you could see, and you're gonna press so that each piece goes all the way to the corner, but you wanna get these edges that we just cut, we want them to go down to the bottom of the pan. And then you're gonna press it to go to the edges. So this is our baklava, a little bit more butter on the top. Just wanna get it all the way around. And we're almost ready to bake. The last step is cutting it before you bake it. So I'm gonna go wash my hands and then we're gonna cut our baklava. Here's how we cut the baklava. You always wanna cut it before you bake it in the oven. So here's our baklava, all buttered. I'm gonna take a sharp knife and we're gonna do this in 3 even pieces. So I'm gonna just kind of draw the line to see if they're even. Yep, and I'm gonna go take my knife down and slowly move your knife on an angle so that you don't lift the phyllo. So we're gonna go all the way down to the edge. Again, down on the tip of your knife and slowly move it. Don't lift your knife up and down because it's gonna pull the phyllo up with your knife. So we wanna go in small, little tiny strokes up and down. Now we're gonna do 4 even lines across. So again, same thing, take your knife, tip down, and you can hold the phyllo like this so that it doesn't lift when you're cutting it. So you hold the pieces and go all the way to the edge. So we're making squares first. Perfect. So now we have 12 squares. Next, we're gonna do triangles. We're gonna go across. So from the edge, and you're gonna go across evenly. And again, hold down your phyllo so that we can make triangles. Now we're gonna have 24 pieces of baklava. So we're gonna continue that pattern all the way to the corner. All the way to the corner. Now, my pan has rounded edges, so these 2 little corner pieces are not exact triangles, but that's okay. Perfect. Now we have 24 triangles. So our last step before we put this in the oven is we're gonna take whole cloves. So cloves will do 2 purposes. One, adds a little decor, but also it's gonna add the element of holding down the phyllo. When you bake it in the oven, it holds the phyllo down so it doesn't lift up when it's cooking. So you're gonna put them right in the center of each piece. And I'm sure you've seen baklava when you buy it with the clove in the center. So you're just gonna push them down into the center of each one. And remember, I buttered this before I cut it and put our cloves in the center of each piece. So I've placed our 24 whole cloves in the center of each piece of baklava. So we have nice sized triangles here, and this is what we would serve if you were having people over and it was your main dessert. But if you were having multiple desserts, my entertaining brain always wants me to have mini desserts. So I would take my knife and cut another triangle down this way, and I would have 48 tiny bite-sized pieces of baklava that everyone can enjoy with the other desserts that you're serving that night. So I'm gonna take this and put it in our preheated oven at 375 degrees. So we're gonna put our baklava in the oven and we're gonna cook till golden brown. So while our baklava is cooking, we're gonna make our syrup. So for our syrup, we're gonna do high heat, 3 cups of water, 3 cups of sugar. We're gonna add 1 cinnamon stick, lemon peel, a 1/2 cup of honey. So it's gonna make it extra sweet and delicious. About 6 whole cloves of garlic, and 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. And we're gonna let this cook until our sugar has completely dissolved, and we're waiting for our baklava to cook. Oh, this looks amazing. Our baklava is nice and golden brown. This took about 40 minutes. I'm gonna take it out. I've taken the baklava out of the oven. It is piping hot right now. So you can either let the baklava cool and add hot syrup, or today I've cooled the syrup, so I'm gonna pour it over our hot baklava. So I have our syrup that we made earlier. I just removed the lemon peel, clove, and cinnamon stick. And I'm gonna pour that right on top of the baklava. Look at that. I can smell the cinnamon, the clove. That looks great. And once this has absorbed and cooled, it'll be ready to be served. Our baklava has completely cooled, and I know it looked like that was a lot of syrup that I poured on top, but as you can see, the phyllo absorbs all of that syrup, and now it's just delicious goodness. So let's try to taste this. We're gonna cut into this baklava. Look at that. Oh, so good. Nice and syrupy. Get all the nuts. Reminds me of my childhood. It's so delicious. For the full recipe, visit nikkigluckas.com, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel.